This is the morning of the 11th of November. A clip on MSNBC. Title: Donald Trump is selling fool's gold from the White House. The president is spending his second term transforming the White House to match his gilded aesthetics, even as many of his supporters are struggling. Trump renovates bathrooms as his team ramps up the military machine. Let's listen to this 10-minute clip.
In the middle of a government shutdown and an economic meltdown, Donald Trump, the guy once billed as the no new wars president, is pushing the U.S. to the brink of an overseas war. We told you yesterday about a report the U.S. military had prepared lists of potential targets to strike inside Venezuela, military sites in Venezuela. Today, sources tell the Miami Herald that strikes on those targets are imminent and could come at any moment to stop a drug trafficking cartel allegedly run by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, although more on that in a second. One that U.S. officials say exports around 500 tons of cocaine yearly, split between Europe and the United States. You might say, wait a second, cocaine? I mean, it's a bad drug, but that's not what Trump officials have been telling us to worry about. In the past 2 months, the administration has blown at least 15 boats out of the water, killing more than 60 people. And Trump has said they were shipping deadly fentanyl to the U.S. without offering a shred of proof to the public or to Congress as the law requires. That never made sense. Experts have said nearly all the fentanyl in the U.S. comes over land through Mexico. And instead of boarding those vessels in the Caribbean they've been targeting, confirming if they're traffickers, building cases against them, gathering intelligence on their routes and bosses, they're just blowing them to smithereens out of the water and killing just about everyone on board. Now, amid a massive American naval buildup in the Caribbean and East Pacific, it appears to be about cocaine and land strikes and regime change in a foreign country, something Trump teased repeatedly last week.
And we will hit them very hard when they come in by land. And they haven't experienced that yet, but now we're totally prepared to do that. The land is going to be next. And we may go to the Senate, we may go to the Congress and tell them about it. But I can't imagine they'd have any problem with it. I think, in fact, while we're here, I think it's a good idea, Pete. You go to Congress, you tell them about it. What are they going to do? Say, gee, we don't want to stop drugs pouring in?
Okay, so big talk, dangerous talk. Today, after the Miami Herald reported that land strikes in Venezuela are imminent, Trump seemed to soften his tone.
There are reports that you are considering strikes within Venezuela. Is that true? You made a decision?
Short, fat slob.
No to what? No, you're not doing the thing you talked about doing last week. No, you haven't made a final decision, whether or when to. Trump has not been consistent at any point in this issue. I mean, there was a time around inauguration when he seemed to be on a track to be buddy-buddy with Maduro, a strong man who has cracked down on the opposition and overseen economic collapse. Earlier this year, remember this? Rick Grenell, personal emissary for the president, was close to striking a mob-style backroom deal with the Venezuelan Maduro regime to cut the White House in on Venezuela's oil and other mineral wealth in exchange for a calming of relations. That deal fell through. And then earlier this month, Trump authorized the CIA to execute covert operations against the Maduro regime inside Venezuela. And a fleet of U.S. warships is now poised for strikes off the Venezuelan coast. Those ships include not just guided missile cruisers and destroyers and an aircraft carrier, but an amphibious assault group that's carrying 1,600 Marines afloat. As those deadly strikes on small boats continue in the Caribbean. Experts say this policy shift from collecting tribute to calling for regime change is largely attributable to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a former Trump critic turned MAGA stalwart who was the driving force in Washington behind a coup attempt against Maduro that failed in the first Trump administration. This is Rubio's obsession and his portfolio. You really have to wonder at this point, how much is this even Donald Trump's government here? Because as the warships are massing and the target lists are being poured over, Trump has been posting repeatedly about the renovation job he just had done on one of his bathrooms. Quote, I renovated the Lincoln bathroom in the White House. This was very appropriate for the time of Abraham Lincoln and, in fact, could be the marble that was originally there. Of course, this is what the president is focused on. He posted 6 times today about it. I'm not making this up. I swear to God. He uploaded a total of 25 detailed photographs of the gold and marble upgrades he had made to the former Art Deco bathroom, including the view from his new toilet/tweeting seat. He also posted about inspecting the construction he had ordered to be done at the Kennedy Center for the Arts. This all comes right after Trump demolished the East Wing for a golden $350 million ballroom, paved over the Rose Garden for dancing with donors. It sort of seems like maybe this guy is just immersing himself in redecorating projects and overseas parties in his honor, while Stephen Miller builds a secret police force and Russ Vought illegally seizes control of all government spending and Marco Rubio plans a military adventure in Venezuela. It certainly appears that the regime change faction has won their battle within the administration, and we are now in a campaign of extrajudicial killing of civilians and alleged drug traffickers, although, again, no proof seems to exist. While the CIA is inside Venezuela, a carrier is parked off the coast and target lists are readied. I mean, this is either a big bluff to get the Maduro government to collapse, go away, Maduro to flee, or it's a prelude to war. And all of this without a scintilla of congressional authorization, not even the whiff of a plausible case there's any real threat to the U.S. They don't need Congress or voters to get in the way of their own pet project, claiming the power to kill, arrest, or oust anyone they want, anytime they want. David Rhodes, a national security reporter for MSNBC, and he joins me now. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
You've been reporting on this story. So first, just to start with, what your sense from your reporting is of where this stands right now.
It's what's extraordinary is how little Congress knows. Just tonight, the two top senators on the Senate Armed Services Committee, Roger Wicker and Jack Reed, they released two letters. They've been asking for weeks for the administration to put out a justification for the strikes on the boats and also more information about all the U.S. forces that are going towards Venezuela, and they've gotten nothing. A rare moment of bipartisan action against Nothing. No information, nothing at all. So it's extraordinary. You mentioned regime change. In 2003, when George W. Bush invaded Iraq, he addressed Congress. There were hearings, and there was a vote authorizing the use of force that won in both chambers, obviously. And this is just the complete opposite. It's sort of regime change in secret, regime change by presidential fiat.
I mean, they have sort of unilaterally declared that we are in an armed conflict with these narco terrorist groups, as they've called them. What do experts who study this say about how real that, are the people with outboard motors on their boats running drugs, maybe, who knows, 6 miles between a Caribbean island and Venezuela, actually some sophisticated narco terrorist group?
They could be. I spoke to a mother of one of the men who's missing.
Oh, really?
I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I spoke to her today. He's a 26-year-old person. His mom said that he was a laborer, and he went from Trinidad down to Venezuela to work there, and he sort of caught a ride back to Trinidad on one of these boats. He's been missing for 18 days. She has no information about where he is, and it's just she's incredibly frustrated. And she's sort of asking for this to stop. But we don't know what's happening. We don't know who these people are, and that's what's so unusual about it. In terms of the broader strategy, it's whack-a-mole. It's a sense that if you take out the boats, it will move to airplanes. It will eventually move on land. And you're not going to be able, it's just a basic question. If it's about drugs, what is the comprehensive sweeping strategy to stop this? And none of that's been articulated.
I mean, it seems to me that the only way to make it cohere as a strategy is as both a kind of a brutal and deadly performance of a certain kind of toughness and a provocation to the Maduro regime, right? To edge closer to something that would be all-out war.
Yes, I think the dream scenario for supporters of this is that the military turns on Maduro or some people in his inner circle, and they're just going to flip. The United States has tried to do this over and over in countries around the world, and it has not gone well. And the administration's also arguing that the military is sort of involved in the trafficking. These stories that came out in the Wall Street Journal and the Miami Herald talked about, well, we're going to hit Venezuelan military bases because they're using them to traffic drugs. Again, I spoke to a congressional aide on this afternoon. No evidence. There are some Venezuelan military officers that allowed drug trafficking to go on and take bribes because it's corruption. But there's been no evidence presented to Congress that they're using these military bases. So it's, again, an excuse to carry out what's an act of war, attack, Venezuelan military bases.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I was talking to a Venezuela expert the other day who was just saying, even this idea that Maduro is ahead of this, cartel of the sun, they call it, that, it's kind of a name they've given to what is much more accurately described as endemic corruption in the Maduro regime, as opposed to he is running some
cartel. Right, and if there's an argument, it's that he's an authoritarian leader. The
Which
opposition
he clearly is.
Yeah, the opposition, leader won the Nobel Peace Prize for her courage, and that's why this is also disjointed and contradictory. So it's a very strange approach.
I want to just leave you with this ask you about this last thing that Sarah Jacobs, a Democrat of California, said officials were briefing her, conceded the administration did not know the identities of all the individuals who were killed in the strikes. That seems pretty significant to me. She said Pentagon officials said they needed to prove only the targeted people were connected to designated terrorist organizations. Again, these have been designated terrorists by the Trump, even if the connection is as much as 3 hops away from a known member. 3 hops is like 3 hops gets you to 1 million people, I think, for most people.
Yes, and there was a policy, a memorandum that was published it came under Obama. Anwar al-Awlaki, American citizen, was killed in Yemen, and the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, went by that policy, and that was that you had to have near certainty that you were actually killing the person you knew, and also close certainty in terms of not killing so many civilians. Again, the Trump administration, the first one, followed that. That's all gone, and in essence, what's happening, they've lowered the bar for the United States to kill people, mostly foreigners, far lower than it's ever been in, I think, modern American history.
Yeah, totally insane. Well, Trump is insane. The latest aesthetic horror show that President Donald Trump has foisted upon the White House appeared Wednesday. A new sign seemingly taped to the wall at the end of the colonnade connecting the West Wing and the Executive Mansion with words printed in golden ink and in a font akin to Eat, Pray, Love, signs adored by moms nationwide. 3 sheets of paper announce what lies behind the nearby glass door. The Oval Office. His hyper-focus on a vision of 24-karat luxury is increasingly disconnected from reality. If you have some time, go do a search on his apartment at the Trump Tower. Gold everywhere. Ceilings adorned with it. Gold columns. I mean, it's unbelievable. This guy's nuts. Trump's sense of style was questionable long before all gold everything decor on his second term. His single-minded determination to place his own visual stamp on the seat of executive power is continuation of his decades as a realtor obsessed with imagery, often inserting himself into the most minute details of his properties' designs. But this approach raises far deeper concerns. Trump has attempted to bring that level of autocratic control to the presidency in matters of both staggering consequences and utter blatantly. His hyper-focus on a vision of 24-karat luxury is increasingly disconnected from reality, as his policies, coupled with the longest federal shutdown in history, leave millions of Americans facing food insecurity and rising prices. The transformation began quickly after Trump's second inauguration. Within weeks, an endless string of golden knickknacks were strewn about the Oval Office. Their numbers have only multiplied since then. The Rose Garden was paved over in favor of the Rose Garden Club, a facsimile of the patio at his Mar-a-Lago Country Club. After claiming that the East Wing would remain untouched, Trump greenlit its destruction last month to make room for a massive golden ballroom with an estimated $300 million price tag. Despite the ongoing shutdown, the tone-deaf peons to splendor have continued apace. Last week, Trump touted a refurbishing of the Lincoln bedroom bathroom. He posted dozens of pictures to Truth Social showing off the black and white polished statutory marble that now covers the executive chamber from floor to ceiling. The bathroom also sports golden-colored fixtures, in a sense including the bath and sink faucets, wall scones, and trash bin, as well as crystal hanging chandelier. Late that evening, Trump attended a Great Gatsby-themed Halloween party at his Mar-a-Lago club, with attendees merely cosplaying pre-Depression decadence, while food bank lines overflowed. Look at this. He's got the gold everywhere. The Oval Office. That's so he can find it because he's so stupid. You can read the rest of the article. I mean, it's just sickening. The guy's going to bring us into World War III. He's just so fucking stupid. It's pathetic. You think not? Think what you like. He's destroyed the Republican Party. Again, don't worry about J.D. Vance being elected president in 2020. The only way he'll get into the Oval Office is if Trump dies. Other than that, J.D. Vance will never be president. That's just sort of what I think. Pass it along. Again, go do a search on his gaudy apartment in the Trump Tower.